Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I want to jump back into independent play for a minute. So Taylor just joined. Taylor, please don't apologize for coming in late. I saw you did in the text. Feel free to unmute yourself, but I'll ask your question. So Taylor is asking, she is an infant, not sure exactly how old, but she's wondering what she can do and when to support independent play with an infant. Taylor, if you want to add anything, please feel free.
She's 3 months old right now. She's actually pretty good at playing by herself, but I just like in the long run, I'm very interested in having her able to play by herself and not need constant attention. And I guess one of my main concerns, this is probably just like made up in my head, but I have this thought that like maybe having a full-time nanny who's constantly playing with the child and giving all their undivided attention to a child could make alone time more difficult in the long term for a baby. But that's just that's like that's a theory, and I'm wondering if there's any truth to that. Thank you.
Um, yeah, so if she's already doing a little bit of playing by herself at 3 months old, that's awesome. I mean, the main thing I would say at that age is if it's happening naturally, don't interrupt it. When she's happily playing by herself, just let her play by herself. And then when she starts fussing and she needs something, go care for her. And then as we kind of have been talking about, I think around 6 months is sort of the point where you can start to like intentionally implement this. But if you're building on that now and she's naturally doing it, you're going to have a pretty easy time. But the main thing is that as she gets older, if she starts to fuss more or not want alone time, to go back to, and I'm sure Taylor, if you want, you can re-listen to the recording of this later, but to go back to kind of visiting her each time she fusses and kind of soothing her a little bit without picking her up and giving her the chance to kind of calm down and then re-engage in her play. And at 6 months old, you know, the longest time you probably are going to expect is like 20 minutes or something like that. And then as she gets older, you can start slowly increasing those times. But if you don't get in the habit of just picking her up each time she fusses, then she'll continue to build that skill naturally on her own, because independent play is actually a natural skill that we've kind of trained out of children rather than the other way around. And the same thing goes with the nanny. So if you have a full-time nanny and she's playing with the baby a lot, that's great. It's so good for little ones to have lots of engaged play and attention. And you might just mention to her that, you know, you really want to make sure that you're continuing to foster this skill. And a great way to do that, I think, with a nanny, so the expectations are really clear, is to just pick a specific time in her routine. So for an infant, after a nap is a great time because she'll be rested, maybe, you know, nap, feed, and then, you know, play or independent play. And so just putting that in the schedule like once a day for 20 minutes and just telling her, hey, during that time, maybe you can fold some laundry or do some dishes or whatever and be close by, and just make sure you're talking her through exactly what you want, and not that it's just like, oh, you can leave the baby alone to play, you know, whenever. And then, yeah, definitely I agree that I think, you know, giving her that attention all the time isn't necessarily the best thing. Yeah.
That's helpful. What if with a nanny, could the independent play happen during the parents' time with the kid, or is that not a great idea? Should it also happen during the nanny's time?
Sure, but whatever works for your family. I mean, it totally depends on your schedule and what's going on. I mean, the one thing about that would be just, you know, if the child's with the nanny a lot of the day, then you might want time with them when you do have them, you know. So, but if you get off work and then you take them immediately from the nanny, and then, you know, you still need to cook dinner and you haven't had any self-care, then great, you know, then still, yeah, absolutely put that in your time. So
That's what I was thinking, is because we often do independent play while we're cooking dinner.
yeah.
And that's why, because that's going to happen one way or another, right?
Totally.
That's super helpful.